Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us for today's webinar, which is Prism for our social work programs focusing on timesheets. Today's presenter is Tanya Gupta. She is our product manager here at Exxat. If you have any questions throughout the webinar, please add your questions in the questions box. We will be pausing periodically to ensure your questions are answered. If you'd prefer to voice your question, please feel free to raise your hand and we'll go ahead and unmute you. As usual, you can download today's presentation to follow along or keep as a reference. You can find that in the handout section. This webinar will be recorded and shared with you along with the presentation via email 1 hour after the webinar ends, and will also be made available on our YouTube channel. And Tanya, if you're all set, we can go ahead and get started.
Sure. Sounds good. So we will be, today's webinar is based on one learning activity. We have 3 learning activities for social work in the system. One is forms. Second, we have is timesheet, and third is time off. Today, we'll be primarily focusing on timesheets, discussing about the entire flow of how timesheet can be set up, how can students complete the timesheet, how can they review and sign off, and how can they look at the reports. And we will be covering learning contracts for forms in the next webinar, that is on next Tuesday, same time. Starting with overview of timesheets. Currently, Prism allows schools to set up timesheets. All the schools can just go to the setup, activate the timesheet, and it would be visible for students to start working on it. Then students can add their timesheet entries and send them to the task supervisor or field instructors as per the requirement by schools. It's completely optional. If they want, they can send it to both task supervisor and field instructors as well. Task supervisor and field instructor can review and approve the timesheets. And then once that is done, field liaison receives the timesheet and they can also provide the sign-off from there. So we will go through how all the 4 parties works together and how this flow looks like. So we'll be starting with the setup part. So I have screens open here. Currently, I am logged in as a school. When I logged in as school, I see this kind of a dashboard. I would have to go into the learning activities to be able to access the timesheet. When I go into learning activities, I see the listing of all course offerings. These listings provide me detail on the course number, course name, learning activities, what is the academic year, professional year, term, cohort, and the action. So let's say we are looking at this course where course name is Field Practicum 1. I have timesheet already activated. I can just go to the setup and look at how it is set up. So this would be the setup screen where we have a setup of 3 activities we spoke about: forms, timesheet, and time off. Today we'll be focusing on timesheet. So if I edit the setup, it would look something like this. So maximum hours per day can be set up by me. When I say maximum hours, as a school, I can restrict how many hours per day would I like to allow for the student to enter. It has no limit. Even if you want to make it 24 hours, that is definitely possible. Specify the number of days for which students are allowed to edit past timesheet prior to approval. If you want to restrict the students to not edit all the timesheet entries, you can always restrict it. If you don't want, you can just say no. If you say yes, you can just specify the number. Let's say you specify 15 days. So you only allow them to edit and submit the entries that were added in last 15 days for last 15 days entries. Before that, it would not be available. Allow students to enter time for future dates. For future dates, if you allow this, if you say yes here, you would also let them save the entries for future. It might not be really applicable at the moment, but would help you get to know the context of where students will be going in the coming weeks. If there is anything scheduled for them, that this would help you there. Allow students to enter the number of patient. This would not help social work, so you can avoid that. Allow students to enter break time for each time entry. If you want to allow students to enter break time, you can definitely allow them. If you don't want to, you can just say no. Then, if a faculty sign off is required, then we can turn it on. A course faculty or field license both have the rights to do the sign off there. Require student to select field instructor for each time entry. This is very important part. This is the most important part that we look at right now. We have two entities here, field instructor and task supervisor. We can allow both or any of them to be added to the timesheet entry, and then we can allow them to receive the email. As soon as any time entry is sent to the is added by the student, it can be sent based on this. If you want just field instructor to receive the emails, you can just enable that. If you want task supervisor to receive the email, you can enable that. If you want field liaison to receive the email, you can enable that. And if you want school to receive the email, you can enter their email address as well. And you can select all or any of these options. Then if you require any student to categorize each time entry, you can also do that through this field. You can either have a single select, multi-select option, or if you don't want to categorize it, you can just choose none. Let's say we have timesheet categories and we want to do multi-select, and these are some of our categories: direct client contact, clients support service, training, whatever you want to customize and however you want to customize, you can just keep on adding those. Now I'll be taking you to the student view. So once the setup is done, your student should be able to see it and they should be able to log in and add the entries. So this would be kind of a login where the student is logging in. The students would see all these entries and they have two ways to enter into this system. One is field coursework and second is learning activities. Field coursework is mainly used by them. So if they enter into field coursework, they have all the courses listed here. And let's say when they go to one of the courses that we set up for them, they can view all the details and all the course activities here. First section they have is forms. Second section they have is timesheet, and below at the bottommost they also have field instructor and task supervisor. Here you can see already added field instructor or task supervisors by school, and they can student can always click on the add button and add um, either field instructor or task supervisor based on the requirement. If schools want to disable this, you are allowed to do that from your access. You can just disable the edit, and they will be asked to choose the timesheets, choose the field instructor or task supervisor from the list that's provided to them. Now, when we come to the timesheet section, we have five big parameters. One, total number of hours that they have added. Then it's further classified into four parts. First is the in progress part, which is just the save entries they have, which are not sent to task supervisor or field instructor yet. Pending review is when they are sent for submission, and approval. So those goes in pending review unless they are not if they are approved or not approved. Based on that, it would go into one of those buckets. They can always click on this hours to go into the timesheet, or they can just click on this arrow to go on site. And this is the kind of view a student would see, where they would have their course name listed, their site listed, or their agency is listed, or um, their placement dates or rotation dates listed. They can always filter this view using the dates, and they can also filter this using the status of the timesheet. Below is the grid that we see. This contains all the information a student has entered in any of the timesheets. So, for example, we have various timesheets here. Um, Depending on the status, they are allowed to do different actions here, and they're allowed to see all the details. First, we'll see how they can add a new entry. So when they click on add time entry, they are redirected to this kind of a page. So student can choose to see if it is an overnight entry or not. They can enter the start date whenever they are adding this entry or whenever they had spent this time. So let's say they are adding the past entry and they choose 14 June here. They can this date controller can be controlled using the dates. This is always restricted to the rotation date, and if it is set to, as we discussed, if parameters are set to 15 days, they will not be allowed to do older entries. And if it allows future entries, then it will also show them that. Now student can add the start time and end time. Uh, they can add any time given the limit. So let's say I am adding just 3 hours here, and I can add break time as 20 minutes. Of course, this is an optional field, as well as you can disable it from setup. Then we have the most important field of adding task supervisor or field instructor. So let's say task supervisor is this and has been added by my school. You just select that. Field instructor, I have two field instructor given to me. I can choose that. There could be overlap. The same person could be task supervisor as well as field instructor also needed. And students are allowed to directly add the field instructor from here. When they click this, they are given this option to enter the details of the field instructor. They can enter first name, last name, what is the role. They can select both task supervisor and field instructor as well. Also write the emails and the phone number, all the details, and save it. So let's say I would be choosing one of the added instructor. After that, the student is supposed to select any categories. So as we made it multi-select, they can do administrative work and training work within the same entry. So they will be selecting that. And they can add any notes, anything they want to inform. Um, and let me just edit the date because I can't, as a student, I can't add the date that is already added. There should not be any overlap in it. Now, once I've added this date, I can save or submit. Let's say I submit this entry. As I am choosing future date, it's not allowed. Let's say I am choosing today's date, I'll be allowed to submit it. So once I submit it, this would start showing up here. So this is the entry that I just added. And these hours get added as I'm looking at the status of my timesheet as well. Now I can see all the details that I've filled. Either it's a task supervisor, field instructor, or start day, start time, end time, break time, duration, or timesheet categories or notes. Everything is clearly visible to me here. I can also choose to delete this entry unless approved. If it is approved, then I won't be able to delete this entry. Any questions so far? I'll be moving to task supervisor view now. So if there is any question, please let me know.
No questions so far, Tanya.
Okay, thank you so much. So as I've submitted the entry, I'll be receiving an email. Email would look something like this. So I would see the name of the student and I would see this is a review request for the timesheet. This would be coming from Janet Brown, and it would have a logo of the school as well as Exxat. Um, then this all the details would be given to me here. Mainly from which course offering, which rotation this is coming, and I'll be given a link to a page where I don't need to sign up and just directly go there and review the timesheet, approve or not approve it based on the requirement, and um, just be done with it. So let's look at the page. So this is the link that the task supervisor or field instructor would be receiving. This would be very similar to the school view or the faculty view that we have. It will contain all the information of the student, all the course detail, in which year they are, and all the agencies details, everything. They would be also allowed to do date filters or the status filter as required. On the top, they will be shown the summary of the hours that has been done by the students so far. Either it's in progress, pending review, not approved, everything would be shown. After that, they would be able to see this grid where they have to approve. So for example, I choose this timesheet for approving and I choose this timesheet for approving. If you notice, I am logged in as Tanya Gupta and I am a field instructor. So I only see the time entries that are assigned to me. I would not see anything else unless and until assigned as either as a field instructor or a task supervisor. In this case, I am the field instructor, so I see all the entries, whether the task supervisor is anyone, could be multiple as well. Now, I'm allowed to select the task supervisor or a field instructor in this case is allowed to select any time entries here, and they can always click on not approve or approve. Let's say I approve it would start reflecting as approved entries for me. And the same would happen for student as well. Student, if I go back to student and let's say I come to this page again, just refreshes it. So when I refresh it and I go inside, I would see my approved as changed and I would see more entries with Tanya Gupta as approved. So now instead of 3, this one is also approved, which is the one we just approved. And that's it. That would be the role of either a task supervisor or field instructor. Both are very similar. One more thing to note here is if a task supervisor or a field instructor has approved it, you have an option to override it. You can always say not approved, but it would be shown as a similar entry to task supervisor, shown as approved only. So one time entry can't be approved multiple times. It can be approved only once. And in most of the cases, either a task supervisor or field instructor would be working on it, so the other person can just view whatever the status is. After task supervisor or field instructor has approved the same, a faculty would come into the picture or the field license would come into the picture. When we, and this is a kind of login they would see. So either they're a post faculty or a field license, they'll accordingly go into. Currently, this is the dashboard for the faculties, and wherever it's a field license, they would have to go to the student placement section. When they look at the student placement section, they have two views: by placement or by course. While approving, they would have to go by courses and would have to choose the course that the student that they want to sign off. So let's say I choose this one. So I go into the timesheet. I would see this kind of a view. This is a summary view for all the timesheets. It would give me the course names and details. Similarly, it would give me all the rotation names and the dates. If there are multiple rotations, everything would be shown to me on this page, and this can be expanded or collapsed based on the requirement. Inside this, we have placements. Placements could be multiple. In this case, I only have one placement for one student. The student is placed at Lincoln Medical Associates, and I see hours by status here. So I see how many hours are in progress, how many hours in pending review or not approved or approved state. I can also export this data to Excel, and this filter button helps me filter based on the setting or the status, so that I can always filter down the data if it is a huge amount of data and look at the particular. Now, looking at this placement, let's say I go and check the hours for the student. I would see something very similar to what so a field instructor was looking at. I would have all the details of students, all the course details, course name, year, um, professional year, everything, and then rotation name and rotation dates, and even the agency and the settings. I would be able to see the dates from which I want to filter, or be able to see the status I want to see, and do the similar action. If I try to approve here, I would be approving as a preceptor and as a field instructor. Then, and the field instructor would be able to see in the audit history that this has been approved by the faculty, so that there's no confusion on who has approved it and when. Um, Now, looking at this entries, I can always like approve or do any action I need. But the main action for field license here is this faculty sign off. This sign off, this tells me when the who signed off last. So last signed off was done by Ananya Shakuja, who was a field license on Thursday, this date. So it can give me like proper information, and when I click on this button, it actually signs off all the entries that are there. So when I click on faculty sign off, I'll be provided this kind of an option where I can sign off on the all the entered timesheets. I have a comment box here. Let's say signing off latest entries. I can always add any comment, any feedback I want to give, and it would also be represented here in the history when I updated. When was it updated? Who was the faculty or the field liaison, and what was the comment there? So let's say I sign it off, and this gets updated, date, and I have a new entry in the history. Um, so this is all about field license. They'll be able to make sure that everything is up to date, and the students are actually logging in time regular. Uh, then comes into the picture the reports. The most important part: how and where can we analyze this data? So this would be available um, for course faculty. This would be also available for schools, and this would be also available for students. So I would currently go into the school view. They would have maximum number of the reports. So when I go into the learning activity dashboard, I have this tab called reports. This report section would give me list of all the reports for the course I want to see. So let's say I go into the report, I have this entry, I have two reports that are for timesheet. So art by category and weekly summary reports. Let's go through them one by one. First is hours by category. So when I go inside, I would have to choose a course offering. Currently, there's no none selected. Let's say I select this one and apply. I'm not required to select all the settings here. By default, it takes all and status as approved. I can just click on generate report. It will generate the report. And then I can also click on export to export the same. This is a kind of view that I will be getting as a student. Um, the details that are provided here are student details, first name and the last name. We're just looking at Janet Brown, so her details are given here. This is always sorted by student last name, and you can choose to sort it if you want yourself as well. Course number, course name, and a rotation would be given in this order. You would have the agency details, they are tied to, and then the location and the setting details. Similarly, you'll have field instructor, first name and the last name. And we have approved time here. Approved time in this case is 22 hours 40 minutes. Um, then we have total time, whatever was added here. In this case, this is same, but let's say I had more entries here and I generated report. My approved time would differ from total time. So my total time added was 231 hours, but 23 hours approximately were approved for me. So the difference would show up, and you get to know why and how. Then break time would be shown. Break time would total up here for that particular placement and would show. Um, then you will have all the categories here. So let's say direct client contact time, or client support service time, or administrative time, whatever has been added by the student, all of that will be categorized in this fashion in HTML format, and all these would total up for a particular student as well. So currently you see first row and the second rows are the placements, and the data with that particular field instructor. But if you want to see just the student total or just that course total, you would be able to see the course total in the first row, and second row it would show entire student total if the school student is enrolled in multiple courses. And as I was talking about export, you can always export this file and just check this into the Excel as well. I may open that. The data would look something like this. So you can play around with the data and filter uh, if needed. Um, so this was our first report where hours are categorized by categories. Each category shows different hours. We have another report as well, which is weekly summary report. Weekly summary reports are mainly used when you're looking at one rotation at a time and you're trying to analyze how much time has been spent by the student within a week. As by category report, as I was saying, is also visible to students, whereas weekly summary report is only restricted to school because like student doesn't really need this report. When I go to weekly summary report, I would have to go through the same procedure that I did. I'll have to select a course. Let's say I have this rotation setting and status. Um, by default, all are selected, and I'll just generate the report. I can see all my students here, all the data with that. Depending on the size of the rotation, you will be able to see weeks here. So let's say this rotation started in August, and you have first week as August 15th to 21st, and then 22nd to 28th, and so on. However long the rotation is, it will just classify into these weeks. When these So these would be the student, all the details, where in which agencies they are working and what is the setting. You will be able to see all of that. Then total approved hours within that entire placement would be shown here. And then these classifications. So let's say for this week it was just 14 hours, in this next week 16 hours, and so on. If there are any exceptions, like for example, this is 16, 22, you can easily identify the patterns and see when the student is working. Um, you can also click on these hours and directly choose to approve the time entries or leave it as it is. You will be provided with all the filters, all the ways to look at the that particular week entries one by one. So that's it about the time entry. How we learned about various things today. We learned about how a school can set up the time entry, uh, timesheets for students, how a student can complete timesheets, how can they send it out to field instructor or task supervisor, how a field instructor can um, review the time entries and then send it to faculties or field liaison. Field liaison can then sign off on those entries, and they can also choose to approve on behalf of task instructor or supervisor. And at the end, we learned about what are the reports available for accessing this entire data. If you have any questions, please feel free to unmute yourself or add them to chat, and we'll be happy to answer them. Any questions? Anyone?
Not seeing any questions, Tanya.
Um, Thank you, everyone. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out post this webinar as well.
All right, and that brings us to the end of this webinar. If you have a few minutes, we'd love to hear from you. Stick around once this webinar ends for a short survey to let us know how we're doing, what can be improved, and any additional topics you'd like to see in the future. Have a great rest of your day, everyone.